How we doing, folks? Your host Moose here on the Pitt Panthers Football Network as we welcome you back to our Panther Nation Week 11 recap show around the NCAA. Your Pitt Panthers coming off a 17-7 victory over the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. And it was a performance that, the defense was really the standout in, and I don't think you can have said that a lot about the Panthers in recent years. They've really lived and died by big offensive performances. They haven't had the stout defense that can just keep teams off the board and lead them to victory, but that's exactly what the defense did today. Did a great job of really just limiting what that Georgia Tech offense could do. They did give up a few yards, here and there, but if you look at the overall total, 289 total yards, 278 yards of offense for the Yellow Jackets. They didn't really get much going, and then you have to compliment Kenny Pickett, one of his best performances of the season. Did have that interception, of course, they'd like to have back, but otherwise very efficient. 17 of 28, 260 yards, which was big because the running game really didn't get going. Only 96 yards combined between the Panthers' two stud running backs, Quadri Olison and Darren Hall. So seeing Pickett have a great day, Maurice French really blossoming into his own as a big receiver. 6 catches for 109 yards for him. So two really standout performances by them. Paris Ford had his best game of the season, you'd have to say. Defensively, 11 tackles to lead the Panthers was a fantastic job. Dennis Briggs, his safety counterpart, the senior, had an interception late in the game as well. So it was a very solid game. You even got a great performance out of the punter. Eric Fox had 2 punts down inside the 20 at like the 5 and then the 1/2 yard line. So really just nice game overall. The Panthers held that vaunted Georgia Tech rushing attack in check. They forced Matthew Jordan to beat them, the senior quarterback, and he just couldn't do it. He's not the kind of quarterback that's going to take over a game. The Panthers knew that, and they held the Yellow Jackets really off the board entirely and put on a great show. It was a big game for the Panthers and a big victory overall. You look at the yardage, you look at the performance. Pitt, pretty standard offensive performance. 260 passing, 114 rushing. They outgained Georgia Tech on both facets of the ball. They controlled the football. They scored when they needed to. Of course, the late drive by late touchdown by Olison and the huge 3rd and 21 completion from Pickett to French sealed the deal and were the difference for the Panthers in their victory. Around the ACC, some other big games. Boston College obliterates NC State 45-14. That blows the ACC Atlantic race wide open. There's, I think, 4 or 5, I want to say 5 ACC Atlantic schools, all with 2 losses right now. So that is wide open after that game. Miami and Pitt both in their driver's seat now for the ACC Coastal as the Hurricanes blow out Duke 47-7. Clemson beats Florida State 23-3. That also puts both of those teams with 2 losses on the season in conference play in the thick of that ACC crown. North Carolina upsets Virginia Tech. That really puts Virginia Tech in a bad spot. They're going to need some help if they want to come back and win the ACC Coastal Division. And then Wake Forest just escaped Syracuse as they hope to stay bowl eligible or stay on track for bowl eligibility this season. In the top 25, of course, Middle Tennessee State knocks off UMass to go to 8-1. Notre Dame with an easy victory over North Texas. They go to 9-1. Oklahoma, in what looks like maybe a trap game, they blow out West Virginia 38-14. Huge game there. Stanford escapes South Carolina 27-14. The Cardinals go to 7-2. Michigan upsets Penn State. They had a late touchdown in the final minute to come away with the victory over the Nittany Lions. It's a huge upset, and it gives Ohio State really it's going to set up a huge showdown because Penn State's going to have to beat Ohio State if they want to have any chance of winning the Big 10. Ohio State did win over Michigan State in blowout fashion. Tennessee blows out Missouri in the SEC. Florida knocks off Vanderbilt 28-13. UCLA, even without starting quarterback Josh Rosen, win 45-38 over Colorado. They actually scored 21 straight points in the fourth quarter to win that game. Arkansas State goes to 7-1 with a victory over Louisiana Monroe. LSU game of the week. They blow out Alabama in Tuscaloosa 31-13, and Washington escapes Arizona 42-35. So some big games for the teams at the top of the rankings. Now for your Pitt Panthers following this week, they got some great news. That victory led to some big signings. 3 recruits choosing to sign with the Panthers following this game. And not only do they get 3 recruits, but they also have some big names that they're interested in. But Tom Thomas, the first one to sign up, 6 foot, 198-pound receiver from Shaler High School in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And if we take a look at his ability, decent speed. He's got 90 as we scout him here. His rating doesn't change at all. He's 67, definitely going to need some seasoning, but he's got an okay catch rating, and he's just kind of average across the board, so we'll see how he develops. Maurice Wade, 4-star running back of Salone, Ohio, number 25 running back in the country, 5'11", 211 pounds. The Panthers fought off ACC challengers left and right. Boston College, NC State, Clemson were all interested in the running back, and we look, he's projected as a 69. The Panthers will get some more scouting to see how he should come into the team rated wise, and we'll take a look and see what he comes out to. And again, doesn't change in his rating. Okay speed, 85, not great for a running back, but he's a decent player, one that with some seasoning, we'll see what he can do. Probably will have to take a red shirt next year, you'd anticipate. And then we got Calvin Edwards, number 15 fullback in the country, Lynchburg, Virginia, big body, 6 foot, 240, very similar body type to George Aston. They're both from Virginia as well. The Panthers need a fullback. With Aston graduating, they'll only have one on the roster in Sam Smoot, who'll be a junior next year. And Edwards does not look like he's the future. Good speed, but he doesn't have great strength. His blocking is not very good at all. That'll be something that'll have to be trained up. He's going to be a real bust potentially for the Panthers. Loses 8 in his overall. But some big guys the Panthers are after. Number 1, their big target, the guy that they want to bring in, 6'4", 232 pounds, 5-star athlete. I think he's actually the number 2 recruit in the country, and he was interested in the Panthers right from the get-go. He's from Ohio. It's Jay Keys. If you look at his ability, he's got decent speed, good throw power and accuracy. He's got good catching. His route running's really good. He projects as either a quarterback, receiver, or potentially even a running back. And he's interested in Indiana and Purdue are kind of the main teams he's looked at. Basically, Big Ten schools have been high on his list. Indiana, Purdue, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. Notre Dame was in as well. Purdue has a visit coming up in 2 weeks that could maybe sway him back in their favor. But Jay Key's a big guy for the Panthers. Additionally, outside linebacker. The Panthers have 2 senior outside linebackers they're losing this year, so they want to bring in a stud if they can, and that's David Butler. Another big name target, projects at a 78 overall on the outside. He's got interest from Kent State, Georgia Tech, and the Panthers would love to bring him in. Jeremy Ewing, another guy the Panthers are interested in. Probably favors Florida State. Don't know if he'll end up coming to the Panthers, but he's another guy they'd love to bring in, especially losing Alex Buchser to graduation. They want to try and replace that talent gap as best they can. So that's your recruiting news for the Panthers. Around the country following Week 11, we can see Players of the Week. Cameron McKnight for Louisiana Tech, 15 receptions, 294 yards, and 4 touchdowns in a victory over Texas San Antonio. Unbelievable performance for him. And senior Aaron Menz from Iowa in their victory over Wisconsin had, looks like 11 tackles, 2 for a loss, a sack, forced 2 fumbles, and recovered a fumble. So great game from him. Senior quarterback Darius Wade of Boston College, 247 yards passing, 44 yards rushing, and 5 total touchdowns in the Eagles kind of upset, I guess you could say, victory over NC State. And then Alan Artis, the senior in North Carolina's definite upset. Virginia Tech had 2 interceptions in a great performance for the outside linebacker. Heisman race, Darius Geis, 162 yards and a touchdown, really cementing his name at the front of the Heisman race as it stands right now with an unbelievable performance. Deshaun Kaiser had 299 yards passing, 39 yards rushing, and 4 touchdowns in a victory over North Texas. Hayden Moore from Cincinnati throws his name in the ring with 4 touchdowns in a victory over UCF. And then you'll see Joe Burrow, decent performance in their victory over Michigan State, a little bit inconsistent. And then Lamar Jackson had a bye week, so he slips down to 5th as it stands right now. In the top 25 polls, remember, we're using the college football playoff, so polls really mean nothing, but they're a good guideline for where teams are at right now. LSU, Washington, Ohio State, UCLA, Oklahoma all won. The unbeatens are still there. Georgia's number 6, Notre Dame 7. Your Panthers in the coaches poll jump up to number 10. Bama, of course, dropped out of the top 10 with their loss to LSU. Penn State dropped out of the top 10 with their loss to Michigan. Your Panthers are 10. Clemson just ahead of them at number 9, though Clemson, of course, has 2 losses, but a good win against Florida State. You can see the remainder of the top 25. Auburn still 3 games left, but it's Bama, Georgia, LSU. So real test for them. Penn State falls back to 16. Alabama went back to 11. BC's into the rankings at 20 with their victory over NC State. So ACC teams making some moves here late on in the season. Colorado and NC State with their losses both fall to 23 and 24 respectively. Michigan's into the polls at number 25, while ACC schools Virginia Tech and Florida State drop out of the top 25. BCS much more resembled the college football playoff setup. Washington, we'd expect, would still be number 1. Ohio State would still be 2. LSU could maybe jump up to 2 with their resume booster, that victory over Bama, but Ohio State with another blowout. UCLA probably would be 4 now with their victory. Oklahoma, I would expect to drop back to 5 just because of UCLA's resume booster with the victory over Colorado. But it's really anybody's games. We'll have to wait till week 14 for us to take a look at the next college football playoff rankings. And ACC title picture, Pitt and Miami will show down in the last matchup of the season to really probably decide who wins the Coastal. Virginia Tech could still win it. They don't have the tiebreaker to Pitt, so Pitt would have to lose twice, and Miami would have to lose once because Virginia Tech did beat Miami, so as long as Miami has 2 losses, Virginia Tech could get in, but Pitt would need 3 losses as the Panthers have the tiebreaker over the Hokies. So it'd be a long shot for them. You'd expect either Pitt or Miami to make the ACC championship game from the Coastal Division. In the Atlantic Division, though, it's a free-for-all. Clemson has 2 losses. Florida State has 2 losses. Louisville has 2 losses. Boston College 2 losses. NC State 2 losses. Anybody could win the Atlantic Division as it stands right now. I think you'd have to favor Clemson. They're coming on very strong here late in the season. But I could see really anybody coming out of it. Louisville's another big contender in my opinion, as is NC State still, despite their loss. In some big ACC games, Virginia Tech, NC State's a huge matchup, and Boston College, Florida State as well. Both of those, all 2-loss teams in the ACC slate that could really decide who can come away with conference titles. If we look at Virginia Tech versus NC State, Herb Street likes the Wolfpack. Their passing offense is great. Ryan Finley's been really good, so we'll see who can win there. Ohio State and Penn State, huge showdown in Happy Valley. The Buckeyes taking on the Nittany Lions. Even though Penn State has 2 losses, they have an unbelievable set of weapons. Barkley still, McSorley still. They have the number 3 offense, number 2 scoring offense in the country, so you could see them winning. Georgia and Auburn, Herb Street likes the Bulldogs, but it's anybody's game. Auburn's rushing attack has been unbelievable, but Georgia's got a fantastic rush defense, so that'll be a great showdown between those 2 schools. Colorado, worse gets worse for them. They just lost to UCLA in heartbreaking fashion. Now they have to take on Washington, who has been absolutely dominant this year. Number 1 defense in the country by a mile. So that should be a great game. And then for your Pitt Panthers, they head to Durham, North Carolina to take on the Duke Blue Devils, who are really having an underachieving season, you have to say, this year. They have a good team. Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. They have some solid talent around him, but they've just really struggled on every facet of the ball. 116th ranked scoring offense, 113th ranked total offense, 112th ranked total defense. They're over 100th in every category except for passing offense, whereas the Panthers, number 28 offense, number 4 rush offense, decent defense this year, which has been a great change of pace. So it's really going to be a tough ask for the Blue Devils to come away with a win. Their only wins this year have come against Tulane, who's also 3-6. They beat Troy, who's 3-5, both non-Power 5 teams. And of course, they beat Virginia 38-24 just 2 weeks ago, but then got slaughtered by Miami. They've been slaughtered by Virginia Tech. So they really just are in a downward spiral, you have to say. Jones, for as good as he is as a player, only 106 for 253 passing, 10 TDs, 10 picks. Their leading rusher's only going for 54 yards a game. TJ Ramming, really good receiver, but he's undersized. He's not a lead guy. He's more of a slot type receiver. He could do some damage, but I think the Panthers have really come into their own. Their defense looks fantastic lately. Wolfgang, Keyshawn Camp, Dwayne Hendricks all getting sacks. Defensively, the pass coverage has gotten much better. And the rushing attack, we know the two-headed monster with Hall and Olsen should be back to normal. You'd expect this game, but even if not, Kenny Pickett showed that he can put up some yardage if need be. The Panthers do have Quadriolis and Trey Tipton, both on the injury report still. They're both probable with some leg injuries. Duke will be missing 2 of their starting linemen, though, so that's going to be a huge, huge loss for them. And if we take a look at the Duke roster, you can see other than their punter, they don't have anybody above 90. They do have a nice, solid linebacking core. They have Bear and Humphreys at middle linebacker. They have Giles Harris, outside linebacker, is a very good player. Jones, like I mentioned, is a good quarterback. Ajigbe, or however you would say it, is a decent halfback. TJ Ramming's a good receiver with good speed. But they don't have a lot of great players, and even their line, which is decent, they have a pretty decently average offensive line. They're missing 2 of their starters. So really, I think we should hopefully have a pretty easy time of it. We seem to take care of Duke fairly easily. I think we beat them 38-19. And then I think in season 1, it was way more of a blowout. It was 52-24 or something like that. So I would expect us to hopefully make pretty easy work of the Blue Devils. They've just been so bad this season. They've really struggled. Their offense has been poor. Their defense has been poor. The only thing I worry about is I know they have a good quarterback in Jones. They have some receivers that can do some damage. Plus, just the offense they run seems to be very, very pass heavy when we take them on. So I wouldn't be surprised if they come out throwing and just try and pass on us, because it's happened. I mean, our pass defense has been much, much better this year, but we're not great. They got 2 good tight ends. They have decent protection, like I said, 80, 82, 81 starters. Their line is okay. Their center's 85. Their right tackle is 87, is hurt, which is good for us. So they have an 80 starting. But every person that they're starting on the line, even their backups, are 80 plus. And then if we look at their starting defenders, they're all 80. So they're all not, nobody's terrible. I would think we should have a good game. They are pretty good up the middle, so I think that'll be tough for us running wise. And they do have some good linebackers who can attack at the come down to the point of attack, try and plug up those holes and force us to pass, because we haven't shown that we can have a consistent passing game this season. So I think if Duke wants to try and come away with a victory, that'll be the big thing that they'll try to do, is force us to beat them with the pass. I think that's definitely their key, is live and die by that. So they'll probably jam the box. If we can run through them, great. We have that kind of ability, but if not, we're going to need to see a big game from the passing attack to make this a comfortable win, hopefully. But as always, guys, let me know what you think in the comments of a couple of upset victories this week. Who's going to win the ACC? What's going to be the score of the Pitt-Duke game? And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it here. Moose on the Pitt Panthers Football Network signing off. Hail to Pitt. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.